In San Diego, reminders of the city's connection to the military are a near constant drumbeat.
Breaking news out of Shelter Island, where a military jet crashed into the San Diego Bay.
San Diego-based USS Carl Vinson is coming home after operating in both
Second Lady Usha Vance made a visit to Camp Pendleton. She read to children at the Blue Star family reading event.
After more than a decade of leading the San Diego Pride Parade, the military contingent has decided it will not be participating this year.
Demonstrators out here in front of Camp Pendleton say they support the military. What they're against is deploying active duty troops against civilians in Los Angeles.
Take a drive around the city and you'll find naval bases and Marine Corps depots, Air Force stations and training complexes, naval hospitals and military cemeteries. Brent Beltran was born and raised in San Diego.
Oh, you can't escape it. I come from a military family. My grandfather was in the Navy. My dad was in the Army, National Guard. And so I've been around the military pretty much my whole life. And here in San Diego, it is omnipresent.
The sheer expanse of the industry can't be overstated. In 2024, active duty personnel and contractors accounted for nearly 370,000 jobs in the city. And it shapes everyday life, too. Museums commemorating military history, a, quote, unconditional surrender statue on the waterfront, Marine recruitment in high schools, military Sundays at baseball games, fighter jet flyovers, and even armored convoys on the freeways.
I understand that the military and maritime industry is an economic engine, just like the tourism industry here in San Diego.
But sometimes that engine fails. In 2020, while docked for maintenance at Naval Base San Diego, a routine deck fire on the USS Bonhomme Richard turned into a 3-alarm blaze. Smoke and flames engulfed the ship, triggering an explosion that could be heard 13 miles away. The Bonhomme Richard burned for 4 days nonstop. And as an inquest was launched into the cause of the fire, a Navy admiral assured the public that it might smell weird, but there's nothing toxic in the smoke.
The wind sort of is helping us out with dissipating the fumes. And if you look at the type of fire we have, there's nothing toxic in there. It's just black smoke.
Just under a mile away, residents of San Diego's Barrio Logan neighborhood sheltered in their homes. Logan is a historic area, a majority Latino neighborhood, a tight-knit center of arts and culture, and it's also the closest residential community to the shipyards. So when the Bonhomme Richard started to burn, the smoke hit their noses first.
That thing burned for days, bro. I mean, all hell broke loose. And, excuse me, but nobody gave a shit because it was happening here.
Dr. Alberto Lopez Pulido is a professor of ethnic studies at the University of San Diego. He's also an educator and community leader within Barrio Logan.
If you talk to the residents, I know that they did some emergency distribution of like masks, and they had to give special ventilators and shit like that. They got some sailor dude and they put him in jail and they said it was his fault, and then they moved on.
In the aftermath of the fire, the city installed air purifiers throughout Logan and the surrounding neighborhoods. The ship was decommissioned and it was scrapped, and a sailor was tried and acquitted. The Navy appeared satisfied. But for residents, it was the latest in a long history of too little, too late.
There was no sort of systematic issue. There was no structural issue. Nobody cared as to where this happened, why it happened.
On this season of Things That Go Boom, we've been asking what happens when the military comes to town. And in the case of Barrio Logan, there's no neat answer. Decade after decade of life beside a hub of the city's maritime industry has meant drawn-out fights for the most marginal of gains.
Now, did it make a major impact? Probably not. But what it did is it showed that we're willing to fight. Even if we know that we're going to lose the battle, we're willing to fight.
So today we're traveling to San Diego to see just how hard it is for a community to advocate for its own needs while living in the massive shadow of the maritime defense industry. I'm Lacey Healy, and this is Things That Go Boom.
I hear a lot from people that there are days where it's hard to read a single news story. Forget actually being caught up. But I host a podcast that can fix that. It's called The 7. 7 stories every weekday by 7 a.m. Eastern. And here's the other thing. It's short, less than 10 minutes, in fact. I'm Hannah Jewell. The 7 podcast will turn around your morning and get you caught up. Check it out and follow The 7 wherever you listen to podcasts.
From Zuckerman Spader, For 5 decades, Zuckerman Spader has been a leading litigation firm trusted by in-house and outside counsel, businesses, and individuals. With offices in Washington, Baltimore, New York, and Tampa, Zuckerman Spader serves clients throughout the country and around the world in high-stakes disputes, enforcement matters, investigations, and at trial. When the lawyer you choose matters most. Online at Zuckerman.com. This show is supported by Odoo. When you buy business software from lots of vendors, the costs add up and it gets complicated and confusing. Odoo solves this. It's a single company that sells a suite of enterprise apps that handles everything from accounting to inventory to sales. Odoo is all connected on a single platform in a simple and affordable way. You can save money without missing out on the features you need. Check out Odoo at odoo.com. That's odoo.com.
I think that this neighborhood has always been misunderstood. I think this neighborhood has been ignored. And I think what has happened in this community, at least the way I see it, hasn't really happened in any other place.
We spoke with Dr. Polito at the Chicano Park Museum and Cultural Center, a space preserving and exhibiting the neighborhood's history.
My relationship with this community begins many years ago. God, it's been over 50 years ago. In I'm going to say the late 70s. I used to be a keyboard player in a band. We had like a funk band back in the day, like I had a big afro and we would all dance.
Barrio Logan is best known for the murals that adorn walls, freeway pillars, and park structures all around the museum. It's the largest outdoor mural collection in the United States, linking the neighborhood to Chicano history, imagery, and tradition.
This neighborhood takes you back all the way to the 1920s, 1930s. And one of the misnomers, which is what everybody says about Chicano history, is that we all came in the Mexican Revolution. That's not necessarily true. A lot of families that came here for many, many years. Those families either settled in Logan Heights or they settled in Lemon Grove.
Even prior to the Mexican Revolution, jobs in coastal industries drew immigrants to the neighborhood. Things like fisheries, lumber, railroads, shipbuilding, that kind of work. Today, you'll often hear Barrio Logan described as nestled, or tucked away, or otherwise situated between downtown San Diego, the coast, and the freeway. But back then, when it was known as Logan Heights, the neighborhood was expansive, sprawling several miles inland from the coast.
Here, those early families, I don't know if it was so much like organized labor. To me, it was people coming and doing work. I would say a lot of it was family-run businesses. There were drugstores here. People had theaters. There was restaurants. To me, the community really doesn't really start to take shape until like the 1930s and 1940s, especially the 1940s because of the war.
The armaments of war that an embattled world must have if democracy is to survive.
The military's presence on the Logan Heights stretch of waterfront arrived in 1919 in the form of a naval destroyer repair base. During World War II, military installations in San Diego expanded massively, and the destroyer base was reclassified as a United States Naval Station. By the end of the war, it employed over 28,000 people.
The flow of production in plant and shipyard gained speed. Vessels of all types, carriers, merchantmen, submarines, slip off the ways in growing numbers.
On the neighboring docks, contractors like NASCO, the National Steel and Shipbuilding Company, added Navy vessels and aircraft manufacturing to their services. And in the process, Logan Heights residents lost all access to the bay.
More destroyers are on the way to make the two-ocean Navy a reality.
After the war, NASCO picked up major government contracts building freight ships. Civilian industries like tuna canneries never regained footing on the coast. The military was there to stay.
People were also in the military. People were critical, it had impacts, but people also benefited. So it's not like a black and white situation. A lot of raza was in the military, and that is seen with like our VFW hall that's here. So there's a contradiction.
Those are some of the original ones. Charter members. Oh, and then the names are over there too. Some of the original charter members.
April 14, 1955.
I was born and raised here. Went to school here.
This is Ramon Fino, or Mr. Ray, who returned to live in the neighborhood after serving in the Vietnam War.
It wasn't that easy. My mom was a single mom, raising all of us, and all my friends were either ODing or getting some prison time, and I didn't want either.
Ramon was one of many Logan residents that served in the Vietnam War. Many were drafted, but Mr. Ray enlisted.
I figured the best way out was go in the military. I went to the recruiter, and he goes, well, I thought you wanted to go in. And I go, well, I do, but not tomorrow. Well, what are we talking? I mean, is it 30 days asking too much? He goes, no, that's all right. You got 30 days. I said, all right, I appreciate it. And then in 30 days, I got married because I didn't want to go to Vietnam and not come back and not be a married man. So my wife said, yeah, and so I went to Vietnam, a married man.
I feel like I'm a part of this community because I lived here, you know.
That's Angel Garcia, commander of Barrio Logan's Veterans of Foreign Wars post, where our producer and reporter Jonah Buchanan sat down with Mr. Ray.
It feels weird for me to be called commander, right? I'm just Angel, and I'm just a guy from the community trying to better my community.
Before we started recording here, you were filling me in on a little history of the space.
Of course. So Don Diego VFW started back in 1955 when our service members were coming back from the war. They were not allowed to join any other veteran organizations because of the color of their skin. So our charter members decided to take matters into their own hands, and they started this VFW, Don Diego 7420. Growing up here, I feel that kind of like a responsibility to be able to tell these stories and to help the community out by being active and creating community, you know what I mean?
Today, Angel helps keep the doors open to anyone with a story to share.
They are part of this history. I feel that coming here and listening to some of these old-timers tell their stories, it's an outlet for them, right? They'll sit around our canteen and they'll tell some people their experiences, their struggles that they had while in the service.
Mr. Ray has been a regular at the post for 50-some years. His son was the first ever Don Diego parade mascot.
I had the outfit made in Tijuana. He was the first little Don Diego the post ever had. It's given me the chance to give back to the community what they've given to me. There just seemed to be an automatic connection, you know. Unwritten rule, you know. It's hard to explain because we went to school together and we got a lot of good friends and we shared that inner feeling, that inner loss. And so it was easier to deal with because they knew what you felt, you know.
Ramon's memories of the neighborhood are important because it's around the Vietnam era that Logan Heights loses even more of its historic geography.
The zoning in this part of the neighborhood radically changes post creation of the Interstate 5.
The State Highway Department is crisscrossing the countryside with ribbons of concrete and asphalt.
Over the course of several years, the city modernizes around, through, and over Logan Heights. First, in 1963, the construction of I-5 cuts through the heart of the neighborhood, claiming residential land by eminent domain and uprooting families. And that barrier forever redefines the community. On one side of the 5, Logan Heights, and on the other, Barrio Logan.
There's enough concrete in this one project to construct a sidewalk 5 feet wide and 5 inches thick from San Diego to San Francisco.
Then in 1969, a bridge is built directly over Barrio Logan, connecting the mainland to Coronado Island and routing traffic right over residents' heads.
And you have to remember there was no access to Coronado because Coronado didn't want anybody there. You had to go through Imperial Beach, which is my hometown, and you had to go all the way around to come in.
Like Barrio Logan, Coronado Island is home to a residential community and a large military base. But prior to 1969, accessing the island required taking either a ferry or a 25-mile driving detour all the way around the bay.
That changed with the creation of the bridge. The Coronado Bridge comes at the height of the Vietnam War, and it becomes that access to the military.
This is how the neighborhood comes to be nestled or wedged, or however you want to describe its position in the city. Between the naval base and shipyards to the west, I-5 to the east, and the Coronado Bridge sitting directly above.
And compared to Coronado, it's the 100% different. Because what happens is you have the creation of Barrio Logan, and you have the rezoning to M3, which is industrial.
M3 status means heavy industrial, meaning that this rezoning opened the door to the proliferation of industrial business not just near the shipyards, but also throughout the neighborhood. Auto junkyards, waste recycling plants, fuel supply depots, often set right next door to people's homes.
All of that, to me, coincides with all this quick development and quick growth that people have had to contend with at so many levels. And I don't know if it's military related, but I can tell you that it's definitely industry related. And you can document post 1950s to now all of the intrusion of war related industry that till this day people are continuing to deal with.
This community has always had to struggle. And that's not fair. What other communities have had to struggle here in San Diego, like we've had to struggle? Very few.
That's Brent Beltran again, a Barrio Logan resident and founder of Chicano publishing company Calaca Press.
And I've done a variety of other stuff in the neighborhood, political gadfly, rabble-rouser, and a variety of other things here.
Today, Brent lives just blocks from Chicano Park in Barrio Logan.
Historically, we've had to struggle for everything in this community. There was no parks in Barrio Logan. We had to fight for Chicano Park.
The story of Chicano Park is a singular history that we can't really do justice to in this episode.
Chicano Park came to be because the people of Logan Heights wanted it.
It was won in April 1970 through a 12-day occupation of a would-be highway patrol station under the Coronado Bridge.
They held a sit-in where a California Highway Patrol office was planned, and long before the city and state said it was okay, they cleared the land and started building the park themselves.
For the 55 years since, the neighborhood has celebrated Chicano Park Day in April to commemorate that act of resistance.
Today, they celebrated the stormy beginning with food, fun, speeches, and music.
Brent says that just as the neighborhood was doomed to live with an invasive industry, the park occupation gave Barrio Logan a new identity, a new language of resistance.
Almost every other community in the city has a resident park that they can go to and enjoy. The founding of Chicano Park on April 22nd, 1970, that was like the main catalyst that built this body of struggle that is now the history of Barrio Logan. We had to fight for that park.
Few neighborhoods in San Diego have lost as much as Logan, and few have ever resisted as visibly. So what does it look like to fight against the invasive industries today? Brent knows as well as anyone. That's after the break.
The noise coming from the shipyards is a cacophony of madness. The hammering, the pounding, just the vibrations.
Today, NASCO is the last major shipbuilding company on the West Coast. The shipyard services a range of Navy vessels and specializes in the construction of something called an expeditionary sea base, which is a big ship with a platform in the middle for helicopters or amphibious vehicles or Humvees, or basically whatever can't make it to a new shore by itself. It kind of looks like a miniature aircraft carrier, but it is not, in case you're wondering, just a smaller aircraft carrier for lots of reasons that I won't go into now. Recently, NASCO also won a 10-year, $6.7 billion contract for building the oilers that resupply the Navy's combat fleet.
The amount of noise pollution, the amount of light pollution that comes out of the shipyards, all hours of the day, not just daytime, nighttime, early morning hours.
What you're hearing now is what the NASCO area sounds like at 4 in the morning. At this hour, tall floodlights rise up behind the fence while wave after wave of shipyard employees arrive by foot, car, and trolley.
Thousands and thousands of Navy folks coming in and out of the community every day. Thousands and thousands of shipyard workers coming in and out of the community every day. So for those in our community that live close to the shipyards, it is an everyday hassle just to find enough sleep, find enough time to relax and not get bombarded by the sound and the noise that comes from the shipyards.
And NASCO, which is owned by General Dynamics, is just one of 3 shipyards rubbing shoulders with Barrio Logan. There's also BAE Systems, one of the largest suppliers to the Department of Defense, and Continental Maritime, another repair yard. Dr. Polito told us that as maritime infrastructure has grown next to Barrio Logan, residents are dealing less with the Navy itself and more with the knock-on effects of the industry.
Environmental pollution, noise pollution, that probably is where people encounter it, but they probably live with it. We have the highest rates of childhood asthma in the entire state of California, and we're third when it comes to pollution. If you look around, there's signs that do not allow certain kind of trucks to drive through this neighborhood, but they ignore it completely because it's faster to cut through the streets. And what can we do? And again, this has nothing to do with a war. It has to do with just this industry.
Through the 2000s, local groups like the Environmental Health Coalition pushed the city to more meaningfully mitigate the impacts felt by Barrio Logan residents. The EHC won restrictions on truck routes and chemical advisories at the bayfront. But for anyone involved, the need for something more comprehensive was clear.
Former Councilmember David Alvarez came to the community with the idea of updating the old community plan that had not been updated since the 70s. Gathered up all of the stakeholders, including maritime industry, Chicano Park Steering Committee, Environmental Health Coalition, and came up with a community plan.
After years of research, the plan proposed new housing, updates to neighborhood mobility, and more separation between residential and industrial spaces.
There were 2 competing community plans, though. One was the one that David and the community stakeholders came up with, and the second plan was the one that the shipyards wanted.
The sticking point of the updated plan was the creation of a 5-block buffer zone between the shipyard and residential area. In the zone, new maritime-related businesses would need a community permit to open. So the ports suggested a very different plan. No new housing, definitely no buffer zone, and leeway for shipyard suppliers to open new businesses where the zone might be.
They just wanted to continue to be the assholes that they've always been when it comes to the community here.
The 2 plans went in front of City Council on September 17th, 2013. Brent was there, offering opening remarks in favor of the community plan.
Thank you. I come before you today not as a paid employee of Continental Maritime or of the other ubiquitous polluting industries that mar the streetscape of Barrio Logan. I come before you today as a relatively new resident of Barrio Logan.
The day prior, Voice of San Diego had reported that the maritime industry had arranged to pay shipyard workers overtime to be bussed downtown and pack the meeting.
All we have are ourselves and our bodies to put on the line like those that did so on April 22nd, 1970. And we have the streets, our streets, these mean streets that have been taken before and can be taken again if the call is made.
Thank you, sir.
Hours after Brent spoke, the city voted. It took a few concessions on housing from Councilman David Alvarez, but the shipyard's growth plan was defeated.
It was a victory. Was it the victory that we want? Not necessarily, because the shipyards are still here. The victory would have been pushing them out. But we had our plan. Well, the shipyards didn't like our plan.
The maritime businesses wasted no time. The San Diego Ship Repair Association, which is NASCO, BAE Systems, Continental Maritime, and a few others, announced a campaign to gather signatures that would put the community plan to a public vote. This is former San Diego Mayor Kevin Faulconer in October of 2013.
I believe most San Diegans agree that our city cannot afford to lose these jobs, which is why I will continue to work with my city council colleagues to reach a solution that provides certainty for San Diego's maritime industry.
So they gave the entire city, the entire electorate of the city of San Diego, the opportunity to vote on their plan. Not just to vote in Barrio Logan or Logan Heights or the community that this affects. They took it to the entire city.
And if a solution cannot be reached at City Hall, and I'm hopeful that it will be, this effort will allow San Diegans to have the final say at the ballot box.
Across San Diego, the signature gathering campaign accelerated. It claimed that the new community plan would force out maritime business, full stop. 46,000 jobs would be lost, alongside $14 billion in annual revenue.
One of the lies with these signature gatherers that the shipyards are going to leave the Navy is going to leave and all these jobs are going to go away. That was total bullshit. It was a total lie. There's no way the 32nd Street's going to leave. There's no way NASCO is going to leave. So the HC somehow garnered somewhere around $60,000 to fight the campaign. The shipyards put in over $1 million. We were going to lose, but it didn't matter. Because to me, it's about the fight and taking the fight to them. And so with that, I took the fight to them. So what I was doing, I was the asshole.
While the EHC and Alvarez campaigned against the shipyards, Brent took a more direct approach.
I was the asshole to maritime industry because they couldn't be. I started writing about it with San Diego Free Press. I was a community journalist at the time. Whenever I would find out that they would hold a press conference, I was there. And sometimes it was only me, or at the time, my 2 or 3-year-old kid, Sandino.
We asked Brent about a column that he wrote from April 2014 called San Diego's Maritime Industry Calls the Cops on Peaceful Protesters.
The shipyards were having a press conference. They had a bunch of shipyard workers there. They had executives in suits. So I showed up with my son Dino, my 70-something-year-old mother-in-law, all 4 foot of her, dust mask on as a visual representation of them polluting us. And so we started shouting them down.
Brent writes that his group of 5 shouted continuously throughout the press conference, calling the speakers liars, poisoners.
We were completely outnumbered. Some of the shipyard executives surrounded us and said, "You're on private property, we're going to call the cops." I go, "Call the fucking cops."
A few weeks later, Brent found himself in another small but vocal group. The vote to uphold the community plan through Props B and C was a month away. Outside of City Hall, Mayor Faulkner was holding a No on B and C press conference alongside the Chamber of Commerce president and the retired commander of the Southwest Naval Region.
He had the big wigs from shipyards, and they had a few other folks there. They had maybe 20 people at the most there. And so I show up, my wife was there, and then a neighbor.
Brent's account of this afternoon is titled Barrio Logan Residents Spoil Mayor's Pro-Pollution Presser.
In that area we were at, it echoes tremendously. Mr. Mayor! Mr. Mayor! Why do you hate the residents of Barrio Logan? Why do you hate our children, Mr. Mayor? And he was just mad. And you know what? Fuck you. Sorry, I'm still feeling it, right? When I think about the mayor and how he was pushing it and the shipyards and how they were subverting the community, I'm sweating a little bit as I talk about this because at that moment in time, it was so important to speak out.
In the run-up to the elections, a San Diego Superior Court judge ruled that the shipyard's signature-gathering campaign had misled signees. But even that wasn't enough to take the measure off of the ballot. Neighborhoods across San Diego would have their say on Barrio Logan's future.
Moving on to Propositions B and C, voters defeated both of those. Councilman Alvarez said the defeat showed that corporate and special interests can trump the will of the people. Is that the lesson here?
Well, let's just say that ranks up there with the sun rises in the morning and sets at night.
Even though I knew that we were going to lose, it didn't matter because we were still going to exist. The shipyards may be here, may be polluting us, but we are still here. And so if we're here and something is wrong, we have to right that wrong if we can. And if we can't, we still have to take on that fight.
All I'm doing here is quoting Tommy Camarillo, who was our leader for so many years. Everything at Chicano Park, from the water fountains to the bathrooms to the playground, has had to be a fight. You have to fight for it. And that creates a lot of animosity, it creates a lot of tension, creates a lot of distrust.
In the years after the community plan was thwarted, Barrio Logan operated under a familiar status quo. The zoning remained mixed, residents continued to play the waiting game, and community protections still had to come from within. Even in recent years, there are plenty of examples.
We had Mitsubishi that was going to come into this neighborhood, recycling cement. We organized. The Catholic Church got involved, thank God. And we fought and fought and fought, and they did not come. They were encouraged to come into this neighborhood because it's zoned industrial. And that's the issue. If you rechange the zoning, you're fine, but you're going to go up against all these big-time corporations, okay? So that ain't going to change.
All that said, at the end of 2023, the neighborhood did get some good news. A new update to the Barrio Logan Community Plan was finally passed. The 2023 update accounts for the long-term implementation of a buffer zone, the creation of green spaces, and the prevention of displacement of residents as new housing is created. But as of May 2025, key parts of this plan, including a new park along the 5, are stalled indefinitely thanks to Trump's cuts to the EPA. And even if it does happen, Brent says that who the new plan will benefit is an open and uneasy question.
Specifically, over the last 10 years, gentrification has taken on a central role. Property values have risen exponentially. Barrio Logan and Logan Heights has been one of the more affordable places to live. And it kind of coincided with a renaissance in the arts here in Barrio Logan. A lot of people from the community opened up art spaces on properties that didn't have value at that time. But unfortunately, none of them owned the spaces, and the property pirates saw the value created, and then all of a sudden they started buying up properties. And so this community is undergoing a rapid change. Even though our community plan has been updated, I don't see that process being delayed in any way. And so Chicano Park, well, what happens to Chicano Park when they're no longer Chicanos in Barrio Logan? The various businesses that cater to our community, what happens to them when they no longer can cater to the community that they've historically catered to?
What does the future of this neighborhood look like? I don't know. So that to me is very scary. So maybe there's an intersection between militarization, gentrification, commercialism.
Dr. Pulido suspects that the neat and tidy way that San Diego chooses to represent its military past is in service of a larger narrative.
The other thing that I see happening in this neighborhood or in the city, the military is becoming like folksy and the damn boat, what's it called? The Midway.
Once the largest warship in the world, the USS Midway Museum is now one of San Diego's largest tourist attractions.
And what do they celebrate? Fucking war. They show movies in there about gunners. Oh, let's go see, it's a damn boat. It's a ship. That to me is the future of how it's going to become like folklore, that war is like kind of like a cool thing.
Back at the VFW post on Logan Avenue, the walls are covered with hundreds of pictures of members, past and present. Here, war is more than an idea.
We have a lot of friends that served in the Navy, Army, Marines, particularly the Vietnam era, because of my age. Some came back, some didn't. And I'm proud to be from this era. A lot of memories.
What's something that makes you happy these days?
Seeing other people happy makes me happy. Life is too short. It takes more to frown than it does to smile, People need to listen more than anything.
That's what Commander Angel is trying to instill at Don Diego.
It's sometimes hard for the elders, and not just the elders, sometimes hard for veterans to open up, right, and tell their struggles or talk about their experiences. But when they come here, sometimes they open up and they tell you kind of like what they went through. And I mean, to me, it's a privilege for them to confide in me. I think it's just stories that need to be documented.
Decade after decade in San Diego, the military has proved its worth as the main driver of the city's development. But Barrio Logan has posed a different question to the city. Why should we have to prove our worth to be here?
People continue to persist and they continue to be here. We're like cucarachas. We just keep coming back, coming back, coming back, coming back. We don't go away. That's it. People want to live here.
My name is Brent Edward Beltran. I'm a resident of Logan Heights. I have set up roots here. I'm not going anywhere. We exist, and we will continue to exist. And that is me.
On the next episode of Things That Go Boom, we go to the new home of the F-47 and of Dragula's Maxi Glamour, St. Louis.
I think that St. Louis is a rowdy space, you know? We are a dialectical, revolutionary, like badass place. And within revolutions and within that dialect, you have to have conflict.
Things That Go Boom is distributed by Inkstick Media and PRX. Come see us on social at Inkstick Media anytime. And if you'd like to leave us a nice note in our reviews, please do. This episode was produced by Jonah Buchanan and edited by Katie Toth and me. The music for our show is written by Darian Schulman, and Robin Wise is our engineer. Thank you, as always, to the supporters and the foundations that make our work possible. The Carnegie Corporation of New York, Cologne Foundation, and Plowshares Fund, as well as Inkstick supporters, including the Reva and David Logan Foundation, Craig Newmark Philanthropies, Prospect Hill Foundation, and the Jubitz Family Foundation. We'll see you right back here in 2 weeks.
And last question, what was the name of your band?
Fantasy. Come on, man. You should have known that. Yeah, I was playing keyboards, man. We were, dancing. You know what I regret the most of that is I wish I would have never sold my equipment.